All right. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be back here this Thursday, 6 p.m. CT, November 14th. Welcome back. Hope everyone's having a great week so far. I'm very excited to have another special guest on. His name's Marlon Ganaway. And I met Marlon, honestly, I think it was like 4:30 in the morning on like a Monday. And it was myself, a mutual friend, and Marlon, and we were walking around a local park just really early, talking about life, business, various things going on in our lives, and how to get better. And so I love how Marlon kind of sees the world. I love how he thinks about things and how he thinks really deeply into things and how he structures some of the things that he does. So, very enthusiastic to bring him on. And without further ado, I will bring Marlon onto the stage here. Marlon, how's it going, man?
Good, AJ. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
check in. I know that you guys did a ruck. Was it like last week?
We
Yeah.
did.
How'd
And
that
shout
go?
out to you guys. It went great. It went great. I got to meet Cooper, another gentleman that is here locally. He's a federal probation officer. Yep. So we got to work out with him. He's definitely a little bit in better shape than all of us. Yeah. So just like you, he was leading the charge that morning. We were just trying to hold on.
Love it. Love it. So you guys meet up at what time in the morning?
We usually meet up between 4:30 and 5 in the morning, 5 a.m.
4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning. So with that, I'm really curious, what are some of the things that you guys talk about? What are some of the things that you guys explore? And how do you how do you approach that?
Man, great question. The last walk that we had, we started off actually talking about politics, which is like the antithesis of business at times, but it was how to be the most advantageous with what we have in front of us. If you wanted Kamala to win, if you wanted Trump to win, that's your personal take. But how, as a business person and a human being, can you live your best life under whichever administration? Investments to make under a Trump administration, investments to make under a Kamala administration. And it's funny, we talked, and as you can probably know, the African American community is kind of torn between the presidencies. It was a big presidency for a lot of the people in our community. But I just wanted to help shed some light with those guys that regardless of who wins, there's an opportunity. There's a seat of opportunity with Kamala, and there's a seat of opportunity with Trump as well. So let's get past the emotional feelings of it and see what strategies would be for us to advance in this administration.
So speaking of opportunity, you've seized a lot of opportunities in the past probably decade. So I would love to have you tell us just where are you at right now in terms of your portfolio, its size, its makeup, anything you would want to highlight, and looking at the opportunities you've seized upon so far. Can you just tell us about how those opportunities have gotten you to where you are right now? What does that look like in terms of current portfolio makeup?
Sure. We started January 22nd was my first purchase. My partner and I, we purchased 8 properties at the time, and we bought them on contract. Like you said, with creative financing. It was one of those situations where the owner wanted 20% down. They were going to hold 80% of the note. And I shopped it to everybody that I knew that had any interest in real estate. Couldn't get anybody to go in with me because I didn't have enough money on my own to pay the down payment. So I worked it down to 15, down to 10, and finally I got it down to 5%. So we bought into these 8 properties with 5% down in January 22. Since that time, I've purchased other properties, and as we stand right now, I'm on my 20th property. So in 2 years, we went from 1 basically to 20.
Wow. Okay. So we'll break that down. We'll go kind of deal by deal, not the whole thing, but that's really interesting. So you guys bought 8 properties, 5% down because of creative financing. What
Correct.
was what was the seller's situation? Can you walk us through kind of the seller's mindset? How did
Man,
you negotiate that 5% down?
man, thank God for him because he helped me figure out a strategy that a lot of people aren't really comfortable with. I see there's some hesitancy with creative financing, but he was in a position where he wanted to help us to get involved, and at the same time, he could make interest on his money. So instead of him paying capital gains tax on a normal sale, he was able to sell it to us on contract and basically kick those taxes down the road a little bit because we would be paying it on a note. And at the same time, he charged interest on the money. So in turn, he became the bank and he earned interest on what he was loaning us. So he
Got
was able to make money on his money, on top of his money. And then at the end of that, we had the properties for 2 years. We paid the note for 2 years before we paid him off. So he was able to get exactly what he was asking for, plus a margin.
So just to clarify, you guys bought these in January of 22. Do you
Mhm.
still have that seller finance note on the property, or did you refinance out and now you have that seller paid off?
We refinanced that out and paid him off in total.
Fantastic. So bought it super low down, either added value or the market appreciated, and now you own that property with the bank essentially paying off the old seller, and now you have bank notes instead of the seller notes, correct?
Exactly, 100%.
Fantastic. Can you just walk me through right now, what does a typical day look like for you? I know you own a business, you own a construction company,
Mhm.
you own all these rental properties. Can you just walk us through what does a usual day look like for you?
Now the days are changing a little bit because fortunately, listening to some of your advice, I've been able to kind of pull my hand out of a little bit more day operations. But usually I'm responsible for finding the deals. I'm going to meet agents, going to networking events, finding properties. And from there, I'm going to be the one who's going to be responsible for the construction side, delivering materials, making sure the crews are working, making sure guys are getting paid. I'm in charge of payroll. So in essence, I wear every hat more or less. Now I'm backing out a little bit because I got a little bit more help with the team. So I'm focused more on the sales and the networking side, just trying to generate business for the company. I'm the engine, so to speak. And so now my day will consist of going to networking events, meeting with local agents, going and look at houses to see, what value they had and, just actually run appointments.
So it sounds like deal sourcing, you're running construction, you're running basically relations with folks who you're working with. I'd love to dig into that topic of the construction company because I know of a lot of people, especially these days, who are acquiring companies. They're maybe adding websites, they're using that to boost the equity and like kind of make it an investment, very much like real estate. But
Sure.
to my understanding, you grew this company from scratch, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I was working for a local roofing company here. I had no knowledge about construction. My past has been in finance and sales management. I had no idea that I'd ever be involved in construction. But from working with the roofing company, when I left, I started doing roofing more my own. But people kept coming to me, hey, can you do fencing? Can you do decks? Can you do? And I'm the type of person, AJ, where I always took that Henry Ford mentality where I say that I can do everything because I'll say yes and go figure out somebody who can't actually do it. We'll get it done. So we're not turning down anything. And from there, I just kind of just grew the company step by step. We started doing more bathrooms, do more kitchen remodels, and from there, just kind of just start progressing step by step.
Nice. Okay, so you started with the roofing company, and from there, so it sounds like the first product you were doing was roofs. You were replacing
Yeah,
roofs, correct?
sure. Yep.
And so your role in that, well, I guess what would you say was the thing that allowed you to grow that company to the size where it is now? Would you say you're very kind of deep in the manual part of the operations? Or are you more on that finance side? What are you doing these days?
I think I'm more on the deal making side and the ability to hire. I speak Spanish, so that has introduced me to a community of men who are skilled laborers more so. That market has been very good to me. Most of my guys are on my crew are Hispanic. So me knowing the language and being able to form relationships with them, I have plenty of men. So I've been able to form the crew pretty quickly. So my only role in this was to make sure paid and make sure that I keep generating new deals. So now I'm just the deal maker. I go out and I find the properties, I find the construction jobs and pass it over to my guys.
So speaking of being the deal maker, how does owning a construction company give you an edge in some cases in either single family? I don't know if do you own multifamily?
I do not. No, I have a duplex, but I don't have any multifamily like
Yep.
four and above. No.
Yeah, so single family duplex, how would you say that gives you a competitive edge owning the construction company and looking at those deals?
Sure. It gives you a huge advantage because for the most part, if somebody's going to be using the BRRRR method, buying, rehabbing, renting and refinancing, the rehab portion of it, most times you're going to be hiring a general contractor and you're paying all that money that the bank has given you the loan for. But being that we actually do the rehab, we can make a margin off of the construction as well as the refinancing of it. So whereas a deal might not be a deal for another person who doesn't have the crews that I have, they need a bigger margin. I'm able to find deals that I can make a deal because of the fact that I have quality guys that can work at a decent price.
Can you share a deal where maybe that construction expertise, either from you or from your team, helped you to do a deal that someone else just could not do, or maybe would have had a really hard time doing?
I bought a property in Rock Island on 7th Avenue, and I purchased it for $22,500. And it's one of those stories where I learned as I grew. Okay, so I bought it on contract from someone else. So I was looking for money to get it to finance the construction because it was a pretty heavy construction and had some troubles, but ended up getting the bank to do the financing. So the bank came out, did an appraisal on the house, and the heavy bulk of the rehab, me and my crew did the demo of the house, the cabinets, the doors. We did all the work on ourselves. So it went from us purchasing the house for $22,500. The bank appraised it at $122,500. So they gave us 80% of that, which was around $98,000. So I was able to pay off the $22,500. I kept a bulk of the construction money because I was paying myself for doing the work. And we cashed out refinancing plus what we made on the construction side, about $40,000.
Nice. Huge.
Well, I made about, in that situation, I made about 34 maybe on the refinance, and I made about another 6 or 7 on the construction side.
So you're making money on the front end with the construction by building equity into the building, essentially, as you're rehabbing it and kind of getting it to this new state. And then you can hold on to all these, right?
Exactly.
Do you give them or do you hold on to most of them?
We hold them. And what we're looking to start implementing is a rent-to-own strategy. I look at it where the same strategy that was used to buy the houses that we originally bought, I'm going to give somebody else the same opportunity, because I believe that, with the immigrant community that's moving into our area, a lot of them can't really qualify initially for a loan, but they can get themselves in a rent to own situation where they can have ownership.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because you invest in Illinois. So you I invest mostly in the Iowa side. You invest mostly in the Illinois side. We talk a lot about that. But I'd love for you to just dive into, why is it that you invest in Moline or Rock Island or Milan? What is it that you like about that area? And what is it that maybe gives you a competitive advantage over other investors that just overlook that area?
Very good question. I started in Rock Island because that's where the business was initially. But after it, I looked, I was raised in the Quad Cities area. I went to high school here in this area, but I left and I've been down south for the last 25 plus years. And coming back after all this time, every city in the Quad City was different. Bettendorf had explosive growth. Moline, East Moline at the Bend. There's a lot of things that are happening in every city, but the only thing that I saw different in Rock Island was a different police station. So, the mindset is, okay, Rock Island has a little bit of help that they need with people that are willing to invest in this area. And most investors that I knew didn't want to go there. Nobody wants to be in Rock Island. So I kind of looked at it as a business opportunity where I was going to go where nobody else wanted to go, because the prices were cheap. There is definitely a need in that area. And painting the narrative, it's like, if you go after the forgotten customer, that's where the true wealth is, in my personal opinion. It's most of those niche businesses of people that, have been overlooked. Nobody really wants to deal with them. When somebody comes there with vision and a little bit of help, you can make this an amazing opportunity.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of investors that look at certain areas on the map and they're like, we don't want to invest there because of XYZ.
Sure.
Um, I'm curious, like, how do you make that work personally in terms of investing in that certain area? Sometimes there are maybe management issues, maybe there's issues with like valuations. How do you, as a business model, kind of look at that and find areas of value where other people are overlooking it?
The cost of houses in this area is so cheap that if you have the problem is a lot of them need work. And most people just don't have the wherewithal or the construction knowledge to get them done. But if you have the work to get, the people to get the work done, there's very, very affordable houses over here. And more so, what we're seeing is that the immigrant community and Rock Island has been historically just black and white, so to speak, and the below the hill has been historically crime ridden, drug ridden. But now with the new influx of immigrants coming into the area, we see that crime we've seen, through studies in areas where there are a multicultural or a melting pot of people, crime is a lot less. And we've seen like even the African and immigrant community, most people want to go to Easton or Moline instead of Rock Island because of what they heard. But we decided that if we can start to step by step change some of these blocks, house two at a time, that we can start getting these families over here and start to redevelop this area according to a model that we would have probably put in East Moline or Bettendorf or Davenport or wherever. Give people a quality place to live with quality facilities around that housing, then they become more quality people. I think it's the model where better you get better.
Yeah, let's keep going down on that line because I think you have a beautiful vision in terms of what you want Rock Island to be and kind of the direction that you're taking, your investments, some of the properties, some of the neighborhoods that you're investing in. I would love for you to just like speak to that vision, that mission that you have, so that the folks kind of out there can hear a little bit about what I've heard so far.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like, I remember when I got back here in the summer of 18, I had read like Rock Island's 5-year development plan. And one of the key things that they were going to do was remodel the Lincoln Homes public housing area. So when we saw that with new builds that were there, it's a beautiful, apartment complex that's there, quality living. And it's like, well, man, why don't we just keep ramping that up? But it was one of those things. I think there's just not enough private investors that have any desire to be in there to keep that good thing going. And we saw that there's an influx of people coming in. There's a crisis with housing. Rock Island has two options, in my personal opinion. Either they can build up, like in Chicago or New York, skyscrapers, or they could build out, like they do in Iowa. But they don't have the land like Iowa, so that's pretty much a no-go. And they don't have the wherewithal to build up. It's just not that type of area. So what we found is we could start to generate tax revenue for the city and, give people quality homes if we just remodel what it is that you have, dig into what it is that's already in the inventory, turn them around. And then from that, you can kind of build outwards. Because Rock Island and those, the neighborhoods that are predominantly minority, that have crime issues and things of that nature, there are a lot of nice, beautiful homes in that area that just need a little TLC. And, once you do get those homes and put quality families in there with the rent to own program where they know that they're buying into something for their own self, they'll be more willing to take care of it. You'll see that most people, if they own it, they'll take care of it. Like a lot of people who rent or in public housing, usually those areas are more dirty outside. But if it's your house, you'll take care of it a lot better. So we just want to give people that feeling of having something that they can call their own.
Yeah, that's awesome. How much help or assistance or cooperation have you seen from the cities that you've done this in so far?
Oh man, awesome, man! And better than what I expected. My grandfather owned a lot of property before he passed in the Rock Island area, and I remember he kind of had a little struggle with the city when we were little. I remember he was in the paper a couple of times, but the city has been very helpful. I actually went to the town hall meeting the other day, and I spoke with the mayor and I spoke with the city administrator, and they have a lot of properties in their inventory, and we're just looking to kind of just step by step put together a plan. Our mission is to try to tie as many forces or many entities as possible. So us being the private owners, or the private investors. We want to tie with the city. We also want to tie with local, the West End Revitalization or local nonprofit organizations, or like the John Deere Foundation, Doris Day, so that we can tie as many people to the project as possible, so that, it just has more strength, has more legs behind it. So there's a desire, I think, like seeing what I learned on being a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, what Moline did with the Florida Siente area, we could do the same thing in Rock Island. So, Rock Island has a really deep history. I tell you something that a lot of people maybe don't know. The first NFL football game was played in Rock Island at Douglas Park. So, we have, dreams of maybe commissioning the NFL to put a statue there and make it a tourist attraction and start to bring some quality living in that area.
Nice. Yeah. So in terms of, I'd love to pivot a little bit more into the creative financing part, because I know that's something that a lot of people are interested in. They have been interested in for a while, especially with interest rates climbing up to where they are now. It's a very attractive option, being able to get potentially an interest rate that's below bank financing rates. So can you just explain a little bit, what is creative financing and why do you believe it's important?
Well, creative financing, in the simplest terms that I could say it on, is something that's outside a conventional sale. We're not going to the bank and putting down 20% and doing a formal closing process and things of this nature. Closings are not really even necessary in that sense with the seller financing. It's more like leasing a car. And it's helpful to everybody involved in that, I believe, because first, it allows people who may not have the credit to go to a bank to get the financing that they need to purchase a home. And a lot of people suffer from this situation. They just don't have the credit, even if they had money. So it allows you to get, here's how I look at it, AJ. Most times when people are buying houses, they think that it's always about money. But sometimes the pain point isn't money. Sometimes it's somebody who they have plenty of money. They don't need to hassle and negotiate. They just want to get rid of a property because it's giving them a headache. So you can figure out a way to do the deal or structure the deal that's going to address their pain point. And now this is where we have to get creative, because I have to get to know the person, like, hey, this is a beautiful home you have. It's a decent price. Why would you want to sell? It's like, hey, it's something with my family. I'm tired of dealing with my brother, and whatever it could be. They want to get rid of the property. So creative financing allows you to look for opportunities that are outside of the norm or outside of the box to be able to close a deal to make it a win-win situation for everybody involved.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the creative ways that you've structured it so far? I know there's the 5% down deal for the 8 properties. Can you just walk us through some of the ways that you've creatively structured these deals?
Sure. After the 8 properties that we bought initially from the same owner, he had another property that had fire. One of the tenants had tried to burn the house. So he ended up getting an insurance claim on it. And he just said, I'll just go ahead and maybe clear my hands of it. So he sold it to us on contract. So basically between him and I, like maybe exchange of dollars, so to speak, but there was no money that really transacted between him and I. He just sold it to me on contract. I took the contract to the bank, had the bank come appraise the home for what it would be worth after it was fixed up, according to what we said we were going to do. They appraised it at a higher amount, so they loaned us money for the construction side of it. We fixed the house according to what it is that we say. They came out and reappraised it, and the difference in the money was a line of credit that my partner and I used to purchase another house that we are currently working on to flip. So the house that we bought from there, it was what you call no money down deal. My partner nor I came out of pocket any money to purchase the property.
Nice. So how do you balance, because there's a lot of flexibility with creative financing. How do you balance that flexibility with managing risk in these deals?
So that's a good question, because that is the situation where the risk for us, or I would assume anybody who is getting involved that way, is, do you have the men to get the job done? Because now if I tell you, hey, AJ, I'm willing to give you 20%, 10% down on this, and I'll be done with the rehab in maybe 90 days. And if you can't hit your mark, then you're in some serious trouble. And that's one of the major risks. So for me, what we did to try to address the issue is to make sure that we had quality guys on standby. We had guys that were ready to work, where they knew what they were doing, and we got a flow chart together. And that's, where we're getting better now, getting a flow chart together of being able to attack the trades that we need to get a house done in a more systematic effort. Because for us, we look at it where we're trying to buy houses that are medium to minimum rehab. That's going to take our crew maybe 30 to 45 days at the most to finish. So we look at it, if we can turn over a house every 30 days, full steam, then now this would allow us to buy 11, 12 homes a year per crew. Now, our goal in the next coming years is to put together a second crew, which will allow us to double our output. So as long as we can still hit our metrics, that's can you really hit your metrics? Do you really have the guys that can go in there and put drywall in, saying they really know flooring, they really know how to do siding? Can you get the trades done in a timely manner? So that's what we did. We just, solidified what we were doing as far as our systems, because it was like, me, like I said, I wasn't already involved in real estate. So I started this by the seat of my pants, and it was kind of winging it, and just like kind of getting a better feel of what's going on now with the business, and being able to put the systems in order.
Yeah. So speaking of kind of starting and trying to figure things out, looking back on your journey, what would you say is one piece of advice that you wish you'd received when you started out?
The piece of advice I wish that I would receive when I started out is, don't put people in positions where they don't belong. I think that I started this, for all intents and purposes, just with a dream. And anybody that was willing to believe in the dream, I grabbed hold of them and tried to maybe make them a partner or put them in a position of leadership. And I don't believe that was the smartest thing. I was leading with my heart instead of my mind. And I think there's two things that we should always be aware of when we're dealing in business. First of all, is a person competent in the area that they're speaking about being in? And second of all, do they have a desire to be there? Because I found that there's some people who may be competent in what they do, but they don't like it. So they're going to work every day upset, and then that frustration is going to lead to slow progress or things in this nature. Or there's on the opposite side, there's people who super excited about what they do, but they're just not the best. And how long can you keep up with a guy who's causing you to buy more material or cost you time? So those two things, competency and desire, is what we look at for when we put people in the right positions.
Nice. Yeah, it's especially important when you're looking at, you had mentioned partners before, right? When you're looking at partnerships, when you're looking at various investors, when you're looking at contractors, property managers, all these different parts of your team, you have to have those folks that are competent and want to be doing that job.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, especially, we've talked about this, Marlon, I focus more on the multifamily kind of commercial side of things. And when you scale into that arena, you have a little bit more space to bring in folks for each of those jobs. So a dedicated property manager, a dedicated asset manager, dedicated construction manager.
Sure.
And so that's something that I've enjoyed about that space. But I know you have a lot going on in terms of business. You've got your construction company, you've got these 20 houses that you have. What are some of the habits and the routines that you have found have been essential to your growth, both as an investor, but also as a business owner?
Man, it's funny you ask, because I was on the phone with a mutual friend of ours, and I was talking to somebody. I said, man, I'm doing pretty decent, but I think if I were to get up a little earlier in the morning, I could like double my outcome. I could double my production, and I promise no sooner than I said it, the phone rang and our friend called, said, hey, we're doing a 4:30 walk in the morning. And, instantly my mind said, yeah, well, good luck. But I said, you know what? It's divine timing. So yeah, I'll show up. And I promise, the thing for me that has changed my production, my whole quality of thinking throughout the day, is getting up early, getting a good workout in, writing your notes down for the day, reading something maybe spiritual or something that's, character developing. It's definitely made a change. And I see that the more that I started to incorporate this, the smoother that things are going. I find myself in the day being able to make clearer decisions because I gave myself an opportunity to warm my brain up, so to speak. Like, that morning walk has definitely been a game changer for me.
Nice. Yeah. And it's especially effective, I think, when you have people who, like you mentioned earlier, right? They want to be there. They want to
Sure.
talk to you about how to get better, how to improve their businesses, how to improve their lives. I think having those people there that are with you, that, go on that journey with you, is so important, so impactful as well.
Definitely. I tell you, and this is one of the things I guess we all know, but if you start to do a little bit more searching within, you realize that whatever you put inside of yourself is going to come out. If you read books, the education will come out. If you work out, the strength is going to come out. And how you stand, most people that I would want to do business with are in shape people, because one thing that I can see about a person who's in shape is he has some discipline about himself. So I know that if that discipline can carry from the workout to the business, then we have something that maybe we have in common. So it's just being strong mentally, strong physically. So whatever we can do to add an advantage in our power, that's the things that I'm looking to do in my life.
Yeah. So there are the habits that I think grow your business. And then there are the habits that grow you personally. But
Sure.
there's always something that is pushing us to kind of achieve more, right? So I'm curious,
Mhm.
what is it that's your why? What is this thing that is pushing Marlon to grow this construction business, to grow this real estate portfolio? Why do you do all this stuff?
For me, AJ, to be perfectly honest, I just want to be a part of changing the narrative. In the area that we're in right now, for all intents and purposes, the only full service construction business that's owned by African American. There's just not a lot of people in our area that are doing these things, and if they are, they're not really in the public eye, so you can see it. So I just wanted to be a part of that change where young men that look like me can see another way to make a lot of money for themselves, live a good life without playing sports, entertainment, or things of this nature, or something that's crime related. We needed to see more figures like myself, hopefully trying to be, that can show a different way to earn a living and leave generational wealth for your family. And more importantly than making money, you could start to become more of an influence in your neighborhood. If you want better streets, if you want less crime in your neighborhood, get out there and make something happen. So I wanted to put myself and our team and as a spoke in the wheel of progress for our people.
So in terms of, pushing that progress either in your business, personally, in your relationships, I'm just curious, what's next for you? Do you have any specific goals or projects that are on the horizon that you can share?
Well, for us, we are actually in talks with buying a 48 unit apartment building in Silvis. So, prayers for us on that one, to try to move like you guys into the commercial space. So we are looking to do that. We also, as far as the construction side of it, we've been historically just doing shingle roofs, but we're more moving into the commercial side, getting more flat roofs done. So we're super excited about moving into that area. More so, like I said, that 48 unit apartment complex and bigger deals like that. We're aiming our targets towards things that we know that could really, really shift how our revenues are coming in. Like, instead of, we look at it, our goal with a single family home is to try to hit between $25,000 profit per house. But now swinging the fence at a 48 unit apartment building, this is where, instead of 20,000, if you do your numbers correctly, you can make 1.5 million. So it's almost like just being able to 10X what it is that you're doing. So we're super excited about getting in this space.
Yeah, and it's definitely a bigger space. There's a lot of moving cogs. There's a lot of moving pieces. Can
Sure.
you walk us through, as someone who's coming from a background of having a construction company, owning about 20 properties, 20 rentals that are single family homes and duplexes, how are you navigating that transition into now looking at acquiring 48 units at once?
The funny part for us, it's just networking. There are people I know that are smarter than I am. And I just, try to continue to paint the picture of what's possible and get the right people on board. Actually the 48 unit apartment building, I'm partnering with someone, and they had the people that we needed to get the financing done. So they were looking to do it as well. I think what I bring to that mindset is I'm willing to push the issue where a lot of my partners are a little bit more comfortable, I guess, in life. So I'm driving and I'm pushing us towards getting that done. But after that, just building the team and getting the systems in place. I see that for me, instead of my house, which I could do myself, if I want to go building by building or business by business, you just have to have more people on board that are on the same mindset and that are competent in what it is that they do and put it in their hands.
Yeah. Yeah, building that team of experts is so important. And when you surround yourself with people who are subject matter experts, you may have someone who's an insurance person that's a subject matter expert. You may have someone that's just focused on various insurance, insurance red flags, I suppose.
Sure.
Having that person on your team is so incredibly valuable, because when you go and buy these properties, you can identify at the start, before anything happens, when you buy the property and you have to, fix these kind of on the fly, you can figure that out beforehand and budget that into your budgets and budget it into your purchase price to make it so that, you're accounting for that at the beginning. So that's just one example of a subject matter expert on your team.
Sure.
An incredible amount of value. In terms of the folks on your team, do you have anyone right now that I guess you would shout out? You don't have to share names, but anyone that you would shout out that has maybe in your construction business, maybe in buying these single family homes, that has acted almost as a mentor to you, or as someone who has helped you grow your own business and grow your own mindset in that way?
Sure. And I guess I'll say his name. His name is Chad. Chad Kelly, the gentleman who we bought our first 8 houses from. He's been a mentor for me because I am more, like I said, my mindset and even getting involved. I kicked the door in real estate. I didn't have a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of credit, but I figured out a way. But he's more like, I call him my Jiminy Cricket, because as soon as I want to kick something again, he's like, hey, think about the consequences of this. He is more of the mindset, hey, Marlon, stick with the single families. And I'm like, I want to buy multi-property, but hey, just grow slowly. This is one of the things where, for me, he's been instrumental in helping me see the difference between building riches and maybe building wealth. He had more of a wealth mindset. He's been doing this a lot longer, has more experience in this area. And I'm a little bit more, I guess, brash, hot-headed, just looking for any deal and jumping on it. He's more like, hey, let's take some methodical steps. What is it that you need to make every year, Marlon? Let's start to hit metrics. Let's just not say you want to get rich. How much money are you truthfully trying to make? 1.5 million, or like whatever it is. And then when you make the 1.5 million, then what are you going to? He's been pushing me to ask myself, continue, then what and why, and make me probe deeper into what it is that I'm doing and be more conscientious about my business moves. He's definitely been a great mentor and a great help. It's funny. It's like one of the things where I explained to him, when I came to him, I was working a job for him. Then I became a client because he sold me his property. Then I became a partner with him on certain things. And I laughed like, man, hopefully one day I end up employing him. So you do the full circle of life in there. He's been one of those guys who's just been instrumental in teaching me how to milk my investments, my work for what it's worth, instead of just always jumping on the next hot thing. Like, make sure that you maximize. One thing he said, make sure you maximize your wins and minimize your losses. So if you have something that's not working out the best, jump out of it. And if you do have something, make sure you squeeze the life all the way out of it. Yeah, but he's definitely been very helpful and very instrumental in what I'm doing.
Nice. And now you're entering into that role. I know some folks who are listening, I've seen some of the comments roll in here. If you guys have any questions and you want to ask them, now's a great time. But I know some of the folks who are in here look up to you. I know Zeus had mentioned 20 properties in 2 years. It's a huge jump.
Man, we're super happy.
So as someone who, has made that kind of progress, you're now entering into that area where maybe you had a mentor, but now you're acting as a mentor to some folks, maybe who you don't even know. So I'm curious, for the folks who are listening today that are ready to take that first step, either into, maybe it's launching a construction business, maybe it's buying their first single family house. What's the first action that you would say they should take? What would you say are some action steps for them?
The first action I think that they should take is to get a piece of paper and draw in the middle of that paper, and one side write pros and one side write cons. Because if your why is not really big enough, these are not the type of businesses that you should get involved in. There's a reason why a lot of people want to get involved in real estate but fail. There's a reason why most businesses fail, because most people really, I've learned, don't have a big enough why. And on those days when it's going to suck, which it is going to suck, are you willing to fight through that? Are you willing to be flexible? Are you willing to sacrifice? When, for me, like what's a weekend? It's the same. Saturday is the same as Tuesday. So are you willing to work extra when other people are enjoying themselves? Are you willing to sacrifice maybe going to a baseball game for your son? There's some real sacrifices to be done if you want to be who you want to be. So I would tell them the first thing to do is put a paper down and put your pros and cons. And if your pros don't outweigh your cons, then stay at your job. But if they do, and you see that it's just something burning in me that wants something better for myself, then yeah, that'd be the first step. Find out what your why is and make sure it's big enough to get involved in what it is that you're getting involved in.
So let's say now that that person's determined, okay, here's my why. It's pretty big. I want to accomplish this thing for XYZ reason. What would you then encourage them to do after that if they wanted to really get started in real estate?
If they wanted to get involved in real estate, I would tell them to do pretty much what we did. Find the most knowledgeable person that's doing the best in the area that you're looking to get involved in. Get next to them, find out how to add value to their life, and then from there, get as much information as you can from them. I'm the take you to lunch type. If I find somebody who I know has information that I need, hey, is there anything that I can do for you to make your business better? Because I just want some attention. I want you to give me some of your knowledge. But most people that are well off are busy, and they're not just giving their time to anybody. So my first suggestion for anybody who want to get involved, find the best person in your market that get next to them and find out how to add value to their life.
And what would you say are some of the ways that you've added value to folks who are maybe pretty well off, they're pretty well established? How have you gone about entering that conversation and adding value to that person?
I think most people that are well off, they're just looking for a way most times to feel good about themselves, right? So you give them an opportunity to do that by enlisting their help and showing them how their help has truthfully progressed into something special. Like, I think, once again, the gentleman that, we bought our house from, he gave me an opportunity which most people would not have given anybody. And we took this opportunity and grew from it. And not only that, him and I sat down and discussed ways that we can partner together. So now, being as I am as aggressive that I am with some of the purchases and the things that I'm doing, I can help him make money because, we're looking to, give 10 to 12% return on the investment of the people that are lending us money. So now him and his friends can use me as a 401k, so to speak. They can park their money with me and I can make it grow for them. So I'm adding value to them by allowing them to continue to make money while doing something that's heartfelt. And they're looking, they see somebody who's has the desire to grow and to become a better businessman, and they're able to help in that process. So I think one of the main things you can do to find out how to add value in somebody's life is to figure out what it is that they care about. And most wealthy people care about giving back. So give them a reason to give back. Tell them, give them a story of how you can do what it is that you can do, and show them, just they love that. I think that's one of the things that there's a gentleman who runs at the SCORE organization here locally. And he told me it's one of the things that they get ultimate joy of is because they live such a good life. They want other people to experience the goodness as well, but they don't know how to translate what it is that they do to people who are not living as well. So if you have an opportunity to show them a way where they can put their money into your hands and it be in good faith and it's going to be for a good purpose, you got it won.
Nice. Well, if someone wants to reach out to you and to give back to you, or alternatively wants some advice, and maybe there's someone that is looking for mentorship, how would those folks go about reaching you?
Well, it's funny. You can reach me on my cell phone, my Facebook page, Marlon Ganaway. We have our G&M Properties page. You can reach me there. And also through email, goldway5475@gmail.com. And my telephone number is area code 563-200-4769.
All right. Well, Marlon, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, AJ. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. I don't believe we have any further questions. Looks like you answered
walkie-talkies. Shout out to walkie-talkie.
Yes, sir. The Walkie Talkie Mastermind. If you guys
Yes,
have
sir.
any interest in terms of speaking to people who maybe are across the country, but they're business owners and they're interested in growing themselves, growing professionally, growing their business, Walkie Talkie Mastermind. I know Marlon's a very active member in there. He loves connecting with people. So if you want to join the Walkie Talkie Mastermind and say hi to Marlon, reach out to me, reach out to Marlon. We'll invite you to the Walkie Talkie Mastermind, and we hope to see you there. But Marlon,
Yes,
good to see
sir.
you.
Thank you, AJ. You have a good evening, man.
You too. Have a good night.
Take care now.